how did that, like, this discussion kind of started probably a year ago. We were driving down the road and talking about it, and then we stopped at a church parking lot and had a good long talk.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that was.
and I don't know
That
how
was
it's really
when
impacted you, but it'd be kind of interesting to, yeah, I mean, you asked me to share about this. I guess it's something that has been on my heart. It's been a big part of my life. Um, yeah, like I say, I've found it, the only way to combat lust and stay single hearted for God and your wife. So um, yeah, just don't lie. Be real about it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't say girls aren't pretty.
Right. Yeah. Doing Judy.
Don't.
Especially because you still think it. So it's like,
Yeah.
don't be like, oh, girls aren't pretty. No, I don't care.
Yeah. My wife's the only pretty woman. Yeah.
Yeah, you still think it. Don't lie to yourself.
Yeah, but it's like, yeah, there's a huge amount of commitment there, that I have for my wife, and of course she's the most beautiful woman in the world to me, right? Because we plan to live our whole life together, and we've committed that to each other, and I very carefully chose her, and it's so much more than just her appearance. It's the beauty of how we together, how we've grown together, how we've built a life together. There's so much there, and the mutual respect we have for each other. So there's beauty in that. That is so much. It's even visual. As a man, it's a visual beauty that I see, and she is the most beautiful to me, right? But to be dishonest and say that other girls are not pretty too, well, let's not do that. Like, let's say the truth, and like the truth sets us free, and also love is so much more than physical appearance. Yeah, that's what I'm just learning that, like, it's the journey.
Yeah, that's awesome though.
It's something nobody really explained to me before getting married. It's like, oh, you'll think your wife is the most beautiful person in the world, and it's not because of her appearance. Like, yeah, she's gorgeous, but you're gonna fall in love with so much more, too. Yeah. So how did that impact you, kind of? Because I feel like at the time that we talked, I was processing that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. So.
Yeah, I think it's probably been a bit more of a turning point in my life, and I'm still challenged today by what you say. I think it helped me truly care more about other people, not so much be so like wholeheartedly focused on so many people, even though after that conversation, I was very like invested in another kind of relationship, and so I think that kind of coming out of all that now and trying to like not necessarily get back on track as if I was off track or something, but kind of just resetting priorities and just taking time to be like, hey, I want to reset like everything that's going on and stuff in my life. And I think when you first challenged me, that would have been either just before or just after the new year, and you were like, hey, take this whole year and just just love everyone the same. And I think that initially I didn't know how to comprehend that, and I was like, okay, I kind of get that, but I was like, I don't really know how to do that quite yet. And so a lot of praying and stuff, and I've noticed that God's definitely been doing a lot more where like kind of in a way of loving everyone, trying to love everyone the same, and trying to like live that out now in my own singleness, that I've noticed that there's a lot of like unlikely friendships that have evolved
Yeah.
that I just didn't really kind of see.
Mhm.
I was like, oh,
Wow.
that's cool.
Yeah.
And like no romantic feelings or anything for it at all.
Mhm.
Just like just relationships I didn't quite like think that I would ever like be like, oh yeah, this person's really cool. I really like talking to them, and
Mhm.
then but at the same time like no romantic feelings for it at all. Not being like
Yeah.
because like there are still very beautiful people that I've
Mhm.
talked to that I hang out with and stuff. But at the same time, like it's not being like, oh, this person's like, I really like this person. This person's really cool.
Mhm.
Just like a genuine of like, yeah, I just kind of all right, and then feeling like even more on top of that, feeling like proud of those people for what they do and what they're accomplishing and all that stuff, and just like
Mhm.
not seeing them as just a person, but like not seeing them also just as only the stuff that they do, but
Mhm.
seeing them like kind of like that together, where it's like the wholeness of who they are, what they do, and stuff that like
Mhm. Mhm.
you know I look at now, and it's just kind of like a whole different perspective because of that,
Mhm.
because of our conversation and all that. That was just it's been life changing,
Yeah.
and still is life changing and stuff. And like I still have no idea what I'm doing. I'm still trying to figure it all out. Still, I'm still processing it. I'm still trying to figure it all out and stuff. But a lot of healing has probably come from that too. Of
Mhm.
just like truly sitting down and realizing like and that's treating everyone the same, whether they're, married, whether they're not married. You're just
Mhm.
treating everyone the same and just caring about everyone, being like,
Yep.
these people are all awesome. They're all made in God's image. They're all, you know, um, beautiful people, and
Mhm.
not being like, man, that person's really, really good looking, actually, not kind of, whatever, anything
Yeah.
like that. Like just being like, no, and stuff. But at the same time, like it's still growing experience, still
Mhm.
learning
Yeah.
and stuff. So no, I'm very like I don't know if I could pinpoint and be like this is the effect it had on my singleness, because I think I'm still learning the
Yeah.
effect it's having on my
Yeah.
while I'm single, and I think I'm still learning
Mhm.
um, so much about it still that like there's I can't sum it up with words. I can't be like
Mhm.
pinpoint this is what it did, this is how it affected
Yeah.
me. All these relationships and stuff. And I mean, I hope one day to look forward or look backward, I guess, on that and be like, wow, I can see the true friendships, like kind of like what Jesus had with so many
Mhm.
people, with like
Mhm.
true friendships with them, where he loved them all equally and cared for them
Yeah.
equally and stuff,
Mhm.
instead of being like that person's good looking, that person's not so good looking, that person's really nice, that person's really mean, like just
Yeah.
anywhere like that where but yeah, it's still a challenge. I mean, I'm still growing.
It's
Still
kind of the same picture of, like you said, unlikely friends.
mm-hmm.
That's what you saw Jesus had right there. It was the
Yeah.
people that were real and the people that were struggling. It was the people. I mean, we've got the spectrum right there.
Yeah.
You've got a demon possessed lady, that used to be possessed walking with him. Imagine how that made him look. That wasn't really giving for him. Like that wasn't
Yeah.
making him look too good.
Yeah. Tax collectors.
You got a tax collector tagging along.
Yeah. So many people that walked with him that would have just been like kind of like the degenerates of
Yeah.
society or whatever. They would look at it and they'd be like, "You're hanging out with that person?
Yeah.
Like, what's wrong with you?" And yeah,
Got some stinky fishermen.
Yeah.
It's just
yeah.
And then he's the one that pardons the lady that got caught in adultery. The
Yeah.
worst thing of all. Like, how's Jesus' reputation ever going to come back from something like that?
Yeah, because everyone's looking and judging, being like, "This guy just told this lady, like, oh, not that he was like, oh, just don't do it again." He was like, "Go your way and sin no more." But they probably looked at it like he was just saying, "Oh, don't do it again."
Yeah.
And they were like, "What?
Yeah.
What are you doing? Like,
Mhm.
we should have stoned her, but you made it to where we couldn't because you kind of convicted us all, realizing that we're all sinners."
Yeah.
And then now they're like, now we don't really know what to do, so they all left.
Mhm.
And then the lady was like, probably waiting for Jesus to throw the stone because, I mean, he was perfect. He could have,
Mhm.
but at the same time, he wasn't there to bring condemnation of her sins on her, but to show her love and say, you are
Mhm.
just, go your way and sin no more.
Yeah.
That's really.
Yeah, I think a lot of times we can trick ourselves into thinking that we're loving people when we're just being nice to the people that have something for us.
Yeah.
And somebody that has the status, maybe somebody's, we hang out with that person, everybody likes us. We hang out with that person, we're cool.
Yeah.
There's so many things like that where that's a funny guy, everybody loves hanging out with him, I want to be his friend. You get it, you're on the end now. And it's just sometimes we trick ourselves to thinking we're actually loving.
Yeah.
When God knows all the motives in our heart. And the motives are the only thing, like the motives are what make the difference to our mental health and have the effect on our life.
Yeah.
It's not who we hang out with, it's why. And that's what's going to affect our long-term relationships are going to be richer. If we have a consistent rule that we live by, we love everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter who you are, what you've done.
Mm.
So.
Yeah, another question I had was, well, I guess we already kind of answered most all these. Here's the last one I think I probably have is, how does that affect your wife? With like, I mean, that'd be a better question probably for her to answer. But if you were to try and like look at it, stuff like, how does that affect your wife? Because you're suddenly not just being like, oh, because like a lot of people when they first get married or whatever, they're like only hanging out with their wife, and so like they won't do like pretty much anything outside of that. They'll like work, and then they're home with their wife, and that's like their top priority. And then like you'll see them at church, you'll see them on Wednesday or whatever, that's it. And then maybe every now and then you'll see them on a Saturday if they're doing something or whatever. And I know quite a few people that have done that when they've gotten married. They've just like kind of like secluded for like at least the first year or two or whatever, and then they start kind of doing more stuff. But how has that affected your wife, considering that like when we were having that conversation, I guess probably in the beginning of this year or so, that like it was hours talking. We were talking for hours, and it wasn't like, she wasn't like texting, calling, kind of like, hey, where you at? When you come home? Or anything like that. It was just like, oh yeah, he's, Johnny's hanging out with these friends, his friends and stuff. Like all these friends, and it wasn't. Yeah. It didn't seem like she was like texting, hey, when are you gonna get home or whatever or anything like that.
Yeah.
And stuff. And I know you even mentioned how like there's times that like if she stays out later because she's hanging out with a friend, you have no issue with that. Just like if you stay out later and you're hanging out with a friend, your first thoughts are like, oh, they're having a really good conversation. They're really probably working through something or whatever.
Yeah.
And stuff, instead of being like, hey, why aren't they home already? It's 11 o'clock. I mean, I don't remember. I think we were going pretty late on our conversation. I think it was 10:30 or so by the time we were done. So that was pretty late for even me by that time. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess that is pretty rare. I guess I don't think of it that much, but I mean, it's had all the impact. It's made all the difference because the trust that's built on a consistent lifestyle like that. If you can consistently be that person that does not see color, does not see status, does not see age, does not see gender, as far as how you love. You know what I'm saying? So the trust you build from the very start. And that's why I wanted you to be there before you start any kind of relationship, is because it has impacted everything about marriage and about our relationship. Because I know she's out there doing that. She's the same person to everybody. And she challenges me in that, and I love it. So when we're apart, we know we're fighting the same wars. We're working for the same kingdom. We're out there loving the people that God made, regardless of all the status and all the hierarchies we have in our mind that society gives us, that we grow up with. If we can adjust those to how Jesus Jesus, thinks. If we can see with Jesus's eyes and the eyes of a father that loves his kids, yeah, dude. I mean, that's the journey to grow on forever. Like,
Yeah.
But just the little amount that I put this into practice has had made just worlds of difference in the trust. And with marriage, man, trust is everything. You're not gonna. It's gonna take you, dude. If you have struggle with porn or cheating, it's gonna take you years to build trust again.
Yeah.
Like, and for you to find in your youth before marriage, to find victory over lust, and to learn to love like that. I mean, it could just be everything. Like, I don't know. Like, it's huge.
Yeah, no, I get that. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's so easy at times to think that, whether or not we believe it or not, or whether or not we even say it, to be like, oh, this will go away when I get married.
Yeah.
And it doesn't.
Yeah.
It's the exact same. The way it is that you are now, it's the exact same as you'll be when you're married. You'll just have one other person to deal with all this. You'll basically have another person tied to you and all your problems. So exactly how you are is exactly where you'll be when you're married versus when you're not married. And nothing changes. If you think it does change, you just see yourself and just at some point you'll open your eyes and it'll be not something you want to see and stuff. I think that's really important, I guess. Not to go on to like a purity topic and stuff, but like there's the purity movement that has damaged a lot of the way we as like Christians or whatever view people who are like the opposite sex or whatever, of being like, well, it's not okay to lust, but it's like, okay, but you can still appreciate beauty without lusting after it. You can still appreciate this without trying to devour it or without being like, oh, but that's the thing is, if you're struggling through porn or pornography, you're looking at the whole world through a pornified lens, which means you're looking at it just through a devouring lens, just through devouring stuff. And that's all you're doing. And yeah,
it's so wicked to objectify, because you take the beautiful image of God and the power of a woman, or vice versa, and you're viewing it as an object for yourself to whatever, to, like you said, devour, but you're minimizing so much. You're making a woman out to be something that doesn't have a character, doesn't have a story, doesn't have anything.
It becomes a body.
It's just it's dark and wicked. So if we can see, that's why it's wrong. That's why lust is wrong, is because it's dishonest. It's saying that is that person. It's taking the personhood out of a person. It's turning them into an object.
And this is probably a little bit of maybe a deeper question, but can you rightfully ever lust after your wife, or is it just like, because I know I heard it one time said, and I don't know what all they were implying by it and stuff, but they were like, oh, the only person you should ever lust after is your wife. But at the same time, every time I think about lust, it's still always the objectification of the person that you're looking at or whatever. And so I was wondering.
I think maybe it's because of our language, but the word lust means desire, and obviously desire is not wrong.
Right.
And it's not wrong for you to desire to get married. It's not wrong for you to desire to have a spouse. But I think we've maybe swapped the word lust with the word of objectification.
Right.
And and as a married person, you are it's rightfully yours to enjoy the body of your spouse. And that's right. That's your right.
Mm.
Um, so to objectify that person, to separate that person from their heart and soul and character and all the
Right.
the huge part of their image, because a human being, a woman or a man, is a I don't know if it's just triune being, but like God, there's many aspects to them,
Mm-hmm.
and to separate one aspect apart from that person is wrong.
Mm.
And God is huge, and I don't know if God's a Trinity or more than that, but we know that we are made in His image, and in that way we are much bigger. A person is much more valuable than just their body, the body that goes to the grave, the body that ends up in ashes. That's the part that goes to ashes.
Mm.
You can't. You're not. Yeah, yeah. That's not everything. Yes, it is. I mean, it's natural, and it's good, but it's not the long term.
Yeah, it's all gonna burn anyway. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like,
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, anything more you want to say, or if not, we can.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess just to kind of just to think about what we've talked about as my experience, and
Mm-hmm.
I know everybody's going to have a different experience.
Mm.
I do feel very strongly with the thing about just loving people.
Yeah.
And I know that's the journey of a lifetime right there.
Yeah.
100%. And I would take you back to what I started with, that you've got to experience it to give it. You cannot give something you haven't received, and that's why we love God, is because He first loved us.
Mm.
And in our journey to love God, loving God is the first commandment. And in our journey to loving God, we have the journey to love our neighbor as ourselves, which is something that's going to be a puzzle to me for the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
How to do that? Who's my neighbor?
Mm-hmm.
Who's like Jesus just brings out the stories. It's the person that's maybe the least likely to give you anything.
Yeah.
The least likely to have anything for you. That's your neighbor. The first and greatest commandment. So I think we're talking about the life of a believer right here.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking about the most mature believer, has this down, a little more than somebody else. Not that I believe that there's immature and mature believers. I think we're all, in the same place spiritually as needing grace.
Mm-hmm.
We're all in the same place needing grace.
Right.
And none of us has anything of our own. But that's my journey, and I want to impact the kingdom with that.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what Jesus did right. That's what He really did right there, and showing us that love, and that's the love we're passing on here.
Yeah.
And I've only been into marriage 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been really great. And my experience in marriage has been, I don't see anybody else's marriage being as good as mine. I don't know if anybody else's is, but what I've experienced on my journey is this has been tremendous in trust as a couple, and this is tremendous in building any kind of relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Is from the ground of unconditional love, and from the groundwork of loving equally everybody for who God made them as the image of Himself.
Mm-hmm. So
I have rambled enough.
No worries. I don't think I have anything else to add or anything. So with all that, God bless all you. God loves y'all. Have a great rest of your week, everybody. Thanks for everyone who watched all this or listened to it all or whatever. It's
Yeah, you made it to the end. Congratulations.
yeah, thanks.